Hello and welcome to the second episode of Tea with Tea. This week we have the wonderful Mary McGarry from Mulberry Lettings over in Harbour. Mary, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Mary from Mulberry Lettings. I've been running Mulberry Lettings now for about 14 years. And, you know, it's a different game and happy to talk about it with you.
Real. What I wanted to talk to you a bit about, to be honest, Mary, was because you came from travel, didn't you?
I did. I have a very long history of travel. Went and did all my exams and everything in travel. Had a long career in travel.
I was wondering how that, when you brought that over to the lettings game now, because obviously you've been doing lettings for a while, haven't you, to be fair, how travel has helped you in the lettings game and the similarities really between it.
Okay, so working in the travel industry, I did retail, which obviously is face-to-face contact with people. You're dealing with the nice side of people, which you kind of are in lettings. You know, people are happy to find their home, and people are always happy when they're trying to book a holiday. And you know, it's the nice side of it. And obviously there are always complications that go in. But I think it gives you a lot of experience in dealing with that face-to-face clients.
Yeah.
In later years, I went into the business end of travel, dealing with business people. And that was obviously a little more stressful because things constantly did go wrong their end. Airlines, flights cancelled, flights changed. It was far more stressful. And one of the courses I did when I worked for BTI Hogg Robinson was customer care and dealing with awkward situations like that. I think that put me instead for a career.
With our game, to be fair, once we've let a property out, for example, let's face it, we don't really hear from our tenants unless there is a problem. Do you know what I mean? It's very rare. It's very rare that we get a call up saying, "Oh, Pedro, oh, Mary, I think you're doing a brilliant job." Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's normally the water's leaking, or
we get quite a lot of thank you cards, and I think with social media and everything, you do get a reputation.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important to keep that rapport going with clients. And one of the nice things that we've had tenants that have come back to us later as landlords because we've treated them so well as tenants.
That's the full cycle.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I think reviews have got more and more important. Do you know what I mean? Especially when people are looking for letting agents now. Because let's face it, there are more and more of us appearing. Do you know what I mean?
Right. But wouldn't you agree? As in a lot of retail, a lot of trades, that people are more likely to put a bad review than a good review, and that's what I do
100%.
find.
They never. Yeah, unless I think you hear with some companies that they push to good reviews and they push. You see, we don't do that. Well, we probably should, to be fair. So we kind of leave it to them. If they want to talk about it, brilliant. And then, but you are right, 90% of the time, if people want to leave a review, it's not for the right reasons. You know what I mean?
It's a shame because when someone is looking at a company, they might pick up on 3 bad reviews when there's, 1,500 happy clients that haven't put a review on. So I think as you experience it, you learn to not, judge it by that.
Yeah. Also, I think for our kind of companies, from Henry Preston to Mulberry, we're operating on the same road as some big boys. Do you know what I mean? The big franchises, the guys with the big marketing power. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's when the reviews and you see, for us, our tenants, we know our landlords. Now, with some of the bigger companies, they are more drops in the ocean. Do you know what I mean? So when it comes to reviews and differentiating between which letting agents to use, I think it is nice that when you hear things, oh, Pedro's done this, oh, Mary's done this, because obviously we're the face of the company, but it's nice to know that we're actually involved in the day-to-day as well. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's you build up a business and you build up a rapport with your clients, and you are Henry Preston, you are that agent. And I think the difference between the independents and the multiples is people like to have somebody to talk to. They want to know that they can come into their office and they can speak to Pedro, or they can speak to Mary, they can speak to the same person. What my landlord, we've taken a lot of business from a lot of the multiples for that simple reason. They phone up week and they have a very good rapport and build a relationship with, you know, Jane from another company, and then 2 weeks later, Jane's left, she's no longer with the company, and they're starting somebody else, and the same thing again. Their turnover is quite high, and I think that we all love our little local shops, and as we know, during this pandemic, they've been the ones that have kept us going. We've kept away from the bigger places,
come back to life,
because we've had that personal service. They've looked after us, and I think that's the same with us in our independent agents, that we know all our clients. I could name you every one of my landlords and every one of my tenants pretty much harder, but you build a rapport and you get to know them, and I think that's special.
Definitely. I think, for example, when I was opening Henry Preston, obviously you've known me since I was very, very young. But it's nice to call someone.
What a lovely young you've grown into.
Oh, Mary, stop it. It's nice to call someone in the industry that, for example, when me and you were talking a couple of weeks ago about whether to use Zoopla or Rightmove. Now, I knew to phone you because you would give me the advice that was suitable for me at the time, do you know what I mean, opening up. Now, I went with Zoopla in the end. So we got Zoopla and Rightmove, obviously, they're the two big guys. Zoopla offered us 8 months free, if on the basis that we did not go with Rightmove. Which, to be fair, I think if people are looking for a rental property now, where do they go? I think the first thing is obviously Google rental properties in a certain area, and then it's about the property showing up on Google, whether that be Rightmove, whether that be Zoopla. I think Rightmove still is in people's forefront of their mind, just because of they're everywhere. Do you know what I mean? If you turn on your TV, you'll see a Rightmove ad, or if you go in the paper, and they're everywhere. With Zoopla, I think that obviously for a new business opening up, 8 months free is hard to turn down, because obviously we're trying to keep a hold of our overheads and things like that. And it was just nice to know that you don't have to go with just this sole portal anymore. Do you know what I mean?
I agree. And I think that Rightmove, they're so successful, we're almost a victim of their own success. They don't support the smaller independent. So the price that we pay per month for Rightmove is not much less than what the multiples are paying for, you know, a lot more properties. And I think that Rightmove as a company should really try and support the independents. For example, 2 years ago, we literally had no properties over the Christmas. We'd rented everything. We had nothing to rent. And November, December, January, quietest months. And I asked Rightmove for a 3-month holiday. You know, it's pretty near on £900 a month. And they refused. They absolutely point blank refused to do it. And I just felt quite bitter, I suppose, and upset that I had to pay, you know, that much money, 2.5 grand almost.
To do 1 or 2 listings.
I hadn't even got anything. We literally rented all the properties out, and we haven't really got much else in other than, you know, things that we could have done. The other big marketing thing, I think, is when you are looking for a property, you do drive around. So I think all important, and I think that draws a lot in as well. And you know, Zoopla are good. They're a good company, and people do look on Zoopla. But Rightmove have just, I guess, got the edge on it because they've been going for so much longer, and they're advertising. You know, they're making so much money from everybody that they can afford the advertising.
To be fair, during COVID, they released a statement yesterday saying that they're reducing their costs between April and June, which is very good of them, 75%. Obviously because
they do.
The likes of new homes that can start getting rebuilt again, and obviously the market's taken a massive hit. We know that, and I think it's about time that they offered something like that, to be honest, just because of
and that was very much appreciated, because you know, they saw the market and they saw that it was an area that was going to struggle, because you couldn't move people into properties, you couldn't do house moves, you couldn't do anything. We were stagnant, and it was a difficult time, so it was nice to get their support.
Yeah, definitely. The thing I want to speak to you about next, Mary, is unemployment. Now, one of my favourite tenants that I've ever dealt with recently lost his job. He gave me enough notice, and we started the checkout process. He's going to be moving to Reading with his new job, and he's one of the lucky ones. He still gets to keep his job. He just has to relocate to Reading. Fine, it's all well and good. Now, do you, obviously over the COVID times, we've had to keep on top of the tenant, make sure that everyone's okay, make sure payments, etc., etc. I don't know about you, but I feel like we haven't really felt the full force of the unemployment figures just yet. I think obviously because everyone's still furloughed, and do you know what I mean, we still haven't realistically seen the true figures. I think when we come to October and later on in the year, when furlough stops and the government stops supporting, then with our tenants, we're going to have to really sit down with each individual and just discuss, do you know what I mean, how we're going to move forward, really.
I think we're going to hit a lot of sticky situations. A lot of companies have furloughed staff. They don't know where their companies are going to. Some, are going to have to make redundancies. The whole system, especially the retail industry, where more and more people are shopping online because it's safer. Pubs, restaurants, they're not going to survive unless they lose some staff. They have to, they can't do it. And if the government aren't supporting on furlough, hence a lot more people are going to lose their jobs. We were very fortunate that we only had probably 2 properties out of all of ours that were difficult. We rent based in Harborne. We have a lot of medical people, so obviously they weren't furloughed. And the difficult part that we came into is that the government gave mortgage holidays to people for their mortgages, but that didn't include buy-to-rents or buy-to-let properties. So it left the landlords in a difficult situation, especially if they'd been furloughed or they'd lost the jobs, and they were in financial difficulty. So it was just a very, very difficult time, and I do think we are going to see an awful lot of redundancies and a lot of support. I'm hoping the government will support them, because obviously everybody needs to live and a roof over their head. But
at the same time,
fortunately, you've got your rent to pay, but you've also got food to put on the table for children. And as we know, is it universal credit, I think, isn't a lot of money. And I think that people will have to. So the important thing is staying in touch with people, understanding, and preempting, I guess, who is likely to lose their jobs and what we do, and staying in touch with the landlords. In my situation, we had some landlords who were very, very understanding and said, tenants are having difficulties, then I'm prepared to give them 3 months holiday. Others reduced their rents by 50%, and others just weren't in a position to do that at all, because of their financial situation. People do think that because you've got a rental house, you've got money. It's not always, that's not the case. And it's
there are
difficult.
still mortgages to pay, etc.
We're going to hit some further rocky times when I think furlough ends and more redundancies are made.
I mean, for example, we've got a HMO that we manage where 3 of the 4 people in the HMO work for Jaguar Land Rover. And they're one of the companies, obviously, that are cutting jobs, especially in the Solihull branch. And I think it's just, to be fair, they've been very straight up with us. This is the situation. Obviously, we've been following it ourselves on the news, and you hear about it in the BBC Midlands today, for example. But you are right, it's about having an open line of communication, not just with the tenant, but also with the landlord, and then should he have a mortgage, with the bank, etc. Do you know what I mean? It's an unprecedented situation, very, very much so.
One of the things that we did is during the lockdown period, we've gone through and we know pretty much, as I said, we're quite good with our tenants. We know what most households do. where there was going to be a problem, and then we checked with the landlord. And the difficulty is that if somebody asks for a mortgage on their mortgage holiday, then it comes out that the mortgage company still get it at the end. When it's a rental, at the end of their tenancy, they move out. The landlord isn't going to see that money again. You take them to court, they haven't got the money. They go to court and say, we're in very, very difficult times.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that's the situation.
You could put it into rent arrears, but like you say, if they don't have the money, then you go into court for a very, very lost cause. And I think it's just better just to have that honesty throughout the situation. Do you know what I mean? As we move on.
Communication is very important, and it's paramount to the future of the relationship between you and your landlords and the tenants. And you want to be supportive. However, we are in the middle with it. It's not entirely our decision. And when the tenant tells us they can't pay and they haven't got the money to pay, we're the ones that then has to go to the landlord and tell them. And then, depending on the landlord's situation, we've had some very upset landlords, we've had some very understanding landlords. You're trying to be empathetic to both sides, because it's a difficult situation. It's a very difficult time.
I think this also leads back to the independent branch, for example, the notion of an independent branch. I was talking to Amrit last week on CWP, and he was saying that we're in agreement that when the lockdown happened, for example, me and you were still available on the phone. The landlords for tenants. Now, for someone down the road, like Paul Carr, for example, their offices are shut. Sometimes it's hard to get a hold of them, for example, because one of my family members has a rental property with Paul Carr. Couldn't get a hold of them during lockdown because once their offices are shut, their offices are shut. Do you know what I mean? And I think that it just helps with the open line of communication throughout, because we are the face, the people in the business. And like you say, we build relationships, but not just with landlords, but also with the tenants, to ensure that everyone's satisfied at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And that is so important too. We hit a time where, we didn't know what was going to happen. I guess on the Monday, I'm not well at the moment, so I'm shielded. And I had a phone call from the hospital on the Monday saying I had to go home and I had to shield immediately. And that was on the Monday. And I guess I did panic. I thought, I can't just walk out of the office and just leave. I can't do it. And I did end up staying to the Friday, trying to put things in place. And at that point, there was no guarantee that the country was going to go into lockdown or what would happen. But I sat down with the staff and said, right, okay, we need to prepare. We need to get everything in place. So we drafted up an email. We sent it saying, in case of lockdown, we're anticipating that the country is going to go into lockdown. In case of lockdown, we had some mobile phones. We sent that number to all the landlords and all the tenants. We had spoke to our computer guy and we said on the click of a button, we wanted to just divert the emails to our personal emails. So we preempted it, I think, as best we could. So when on the Monday it was announced, we were ready. We contacted the tenants, we contacted
as much as you could be.
As much as we possibly could. It wasn't the ideal solution, but there were other people that just couldn't get hold of their agents. They couldn't get hold of 100%. Anybody. They didn't know what was happening. And
that's when the differences start to appear. Do you know what I mean? The cracks in the system, for example.
Yes, I think so. And I think it was just because a lot of the landlords, we've had landlords for years, and most of them have got my mobile number anyway. So a lot would just contact me, but then a few newer ones probably haven't. So we just wanted to make sure that every person, every tenant, every landlord could contact us with any questions, any queries, anything that was going on. And I think we got through that pretty well. We had, we still had maintenance issues that had to be dealt with. So I think we did pretty well considering the short notice that we had.
That's it.
We were in
It's all we can do, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it was all a matter of just thinking, sitting back, thinking.
Yeah, hopefully we don't go back into lockdown. Do you know what I mean? Fingers crossed. Can't do that again. But Mary, thank you for all your time this morning, my dear, as always. And I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Okay.
And yes, we will.
And good luck with your business.
Thank you, my dear.
You are going to be so successful because you're such a great guy and such a decent guy, and you've got it.
They're gonna think I paid to say that now.
You can pay me, transfer it. I'll give you my bank details to transfer
it. You're a star. Cheers, Mary. I'll see you soon.
Speak to you soon. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.